Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of You Are My Borough, myself, Dom Shaw and Scott Wilson. And we are recording this on Wednesday afternoon, 24 hours or so after Scott was over at Rockliffe to meet for the first time, to speak to for the first time, Middlesbrough's new head coach, Rob Edwards, who was finally appointed on Tuesday morning, the worst kept secret in football and all that. That was confirmed on Tuesday morning. He spoke to the press on Tuesday afternoon. So we'll have a good chat about that, what we learned from that, what came out of that, the standout news lines and whatnot. Enjoyable. It's about as good as it gets, isn't it? Between seasons going and
it's like you say, it's just nice to have it actually done, isn't it? Finally meet him. Yeah, get the chance to have a bit of a chat. Obviously the new coach and stuff were there. I'm sure we'll get onto that a bit later as well. And I think it's just nice to have a line drawn under it, isn't it? And obviously, what we're recording this on Wednesday afternoon, fixtures are out tomorrow. The first batch of players are back for the start of their pre-season testing tomorrow. It's getting nearer, and I don't think this delay has done any damage. It's not caused any problems. You know what I mean? Pre-season hasn't even started yet. The recruitment stuff's been going on in the background anyway. But I think from a fan's point of view, given kind of the negativity that was around at the end of last season, then obviously Michael Carrick goes. I just think that it's been a summer of uncertainty and nothing really to get excited about and get your teeth into yet. Well, finally now we have a head coach. We know the direction Borough are going in. And I think it was important just to get that done, really.
And first impressions?
Yeah, really positive. I mean, listen, we've been to quite a few of these manager unveilings now, haven't we? And to a large extent, I think it's a box ticking exercise. Big club, exciting job, want to take the club forward. Great chance to work under Steve Gibson. He'll give you his backing. Isn't the Riverside brilliant? All of that. We know what we're going to get. But having said that, I did think there was some interesting snippets in there yesterday. I thought he was particularly interesting when talking about the style of play, what he wants Borough to look like, how that kind of either marries up or contrasts to what happened at Luton and what he was like at Luton. He was interested about why he had that success at Luton and then why it kind of ended the way it did, which I thought was interesting. I thought the whole dynamics of the new coach and stuff being there was interesting. Again, I think we'll get to that probably. I thought that was an interesting part of it. And then the fact that, it feels like recruitment is already fairly well down the line. He's had meetings with Kieran Scott. He knows what the recruitment team have been working on. He's given them his own ideas about the squad. It feels like, for all the clearly nothing's happened recruitment-wise yet. I think in the background, quite a lot of work's probably already been done. So lots of little bits to go at, but nothing that was completely out of the ordinary or what you'd expect.
One thing that you might have noticed being different from the outside looking in was the fact it wasn't a formal press conference setting.
Yeah.
Previous managers has been sat up at the front in the press room at Rockliffe and done that. Yesterday, it was over at the golf club over at the hotel side, and Edwards obviously spoke to the broadcast media.
Got a nice cup of tea, Dom. Got a nice cup of tea.
And then, apparently a nice cup of coffee as well, according to Dale Fry. The coffee club in the dressing room often head over to Rockliffe. For a drop of bean after training. And then an informal chat with the media. Now, from our perspective, like, that's great, isn't it? Because you get so much more out of someone when you sat round the table chatting with them. The guard's easier to come down. Jonathan Woodgate's a prime example of this. When Woodgate was manager, when Woodgate was speaking to the broadcast media, when the cameras were on, you could tell there was a wariness of saying something wrong, of saying something that might be misconstrued, that might be taken the wrong way. Whereas he'd then finish the broadcast side, wouldn't he? Come down and sit with us, and it'd just be like having a chat, wouldn't it? Now, I know that was just a one-off yesterday, but I think that benefits everyone in that environment, in that setting, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's probably an acknowledgement on the club's part and a reflection of the fact that, Michael Carrick wasn't great communicating by the end, was he? We've talked about it enough on this video. I know, obviously there was the kind of tetchiness with Mark at teas and a couple of those interviews, and And I think fans just by the end felt that Michael Carrick wasn't kind of making any attempt to communicate with them or actually let them know what was happening or just be honest and open about what he actually felt about the team, the performance, everything. Rob Edwards is clearly a very different character to Michael Carrick. Immediately you can tell, much more open, much more engaging, far less defensive. Now, clearly that's going to make our job a bit better, a bit easier, you would think. But ultimately, we're there to be the middleman, if you like, between the fans and the head coach. And I think that's just what fans want from their head coach. They want to know what they're thinking, why they're making the decisions that they're making. If things are bad, say that they're bad. Say what you're going to do about it. Don't pretend that things are different to how they are. And I think by the end of the Carrick era, there was an awful lot of that going on. So I think partly it's just a reflection, like I say, of the way Rob Edwards is and the environment he's comfortable in. But I also do think there's probably a recognition on the part of the club that, listen, Michael Carrick, I said this in a piece, ultimately Michael Carrick went because results and performances weren't good enough. But the way that he was conducting himself at the end didn't help the situation and exacerbated everything that was going on, I think. So I think there's a desire to draw a line under that and say, right, we do acknowledge the fact that we've got a guy now who is much more willing to be open and engaging to both press and supporters. So why not try and make the most of that? Hopefully that'll continue.
You touched there on how he wants his side to look. And last week in the vid, we were talking about a previous interview he'd done with The Athletic when he was Luton manager, when he was talking about, I want control, but control, there needs to be a purpose. Well, I think yesterday he used the term, I want control, but we need action.
Control in the right areas as well. He was very keen to get over. Listen, again, we have to say it's all very well sitting there and saying it. Let's see what actually happens once he gets the players on the pitch, finds out what he's got and starts playing. But the strong message yesterday was, I want to be more dynamic. I want more energy. I want more action. I want more aggression. Yes, I want possession and control, but I want it in the right areas. And that means up the pitch, not messing about on the edge of our 18-yard box, which clearly was a criticism leveled at Michael Carrick and the style he wanted to play. It won't be possession for possession's sake. There's got to be an end product. We want to be doing something with the ball, but we want to be entertaining. We want to be exciting. We want to get fans energized and engaged in this. And he was saying, because we were then saying, well, you played in a certain way at Luton. You had certain strengths at Luton. Are they transferable to Middlesbrough and the team you've got and the club that Boro is and the Riverside rather than Kenilworth Road, all that kind of stuff? And he kind of responded to that in two ways. He said, one, yes, we did play a certain way when we got promoted with Luton, but that was really a reflection of the players that I inherited. And we were playing a very different way by the time we'd got acclimatized to life in the Premier League. And I played a very different way at Forest Green because I had a different set of players. So that was one kind of response. And then the other one was, name me a fan base that doesn't want to see teams aggressive, passionate, winning tackles, getting the ball forward, creating chances, scoring goals. Name me a fan base that doesn't want to see that. And I think, that's all very fair, I think.
Did we get any indications on his plans for individual players? Johnny Howson, the returning loanees.
Yeah, that was so. Yes and no. He was asked on Howson specifically, and that was the one time when he didn't really give what you would term as a definitive answer. He basically just said, I've only been in the job for a day. I haven't had a chance to have a chat with Johnny Howson yet. Clearly, that's something that will happen, but it hasn't happened yet. And that was really as far as he was willing to go on that. In terms of individual players, again, he didn't want to talk individuals because, as he said, I haven't had a chance to talk to them yet. But he did say, as will be the case really when any manager comes through the door, yes, I've got ideas of what players I've got and what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are and where there are gaps in the squad. But every player will get a chance to show me what they can do in pre-season. Every player will get a chance to stake a place, claim a place in the squad, show me what they can do. I've got ideas. I think I know about them, but I'm sure there'll be surprises along the way. So, you would imagine Josh Coburn, Micah Hamilton, people like that, they will be in and around it in pre-season. And if they do what Rob Edwards wants them to do and buys into it, they will get a chance. But He's also watched an awful lot of Boro. He's spoken to a lot of people about Boro. He'll clearly have had detailed meetings with Kieran Scott and the recruitment team about what they think they need and want to sign this summer. So he's not coming in as a complete blank sheet. He's, he feels like he's got a good idea of what he's inheriting here, but players will get the chance to prove themselves to him.
The early pre-season games will be fascinating, won't they? Because that's when you start to get a glimpse. I know you can only read so much into a pre-season game, but you can still see whether he's playing Neto Borges as a left wing back or a centre half. You can still see how he's using Hayden Hackney in his midfield if Hackney's still here. You can still see whether he's just playing one striker, how he's using Azaz. It's all these.
We'll see formations, won't we? And like you say, we'll start to see where he sees certain players as defenders or midfielders or whatever. There's a piece actually going up online tomorrow morning and in the paper tomorrow morning on the Northern Echo, kind of specifically about pre-season, how he's going to approach it and what he wants to get out of it. And kind of without giving too much away, I think we're going to see quite a lot of experimentation. I think we're going to see him trying things that might work, might not work. But in a lot of ways, he was kind of saying you learn as much in pre-season for things that don't work as things that do. That said, he's pretty excited about 8,000 Boro fans going up to Ibrox, I think he'll be treating that as pretty much a proper game.
Yeah. His coaching team then, Adi Vivash, Harry Watling, who both come at it from completely different ends of the spectrum, really. Vivash, who's had the rich experience as an assistant in the Championship. Mark Robbins as long-term number 2 at Coventry. Watling, who's got a wealth of coaching experience as various clubs, went out to the States and had a short stint as head coach there. What did Edwards say about the dynamic of that team?
Well, I think that's one of the most interesting things about the way Boro have done this, because Rob Edwards has never worked with either of those two before. This isn't a case of him coming in, having, they're his men, he's worked with them all his life. Absolutely not. I think, listen, one of the major criticisms levelled at Boro last season was what happened when Aaron Danks left. Was there enough around Michael Carrick in that coaching team to help him out when he needed it and to improve the Boro players and do the job that a coaching team should do? I don't think Boro would ever probably publicly say it, but I suspect there's probably an acknowledgement that actually they got that wrong, really, when Danks left. So this time round, what you've got is a genuine coaching team, all coming in at the same time. Like you say, a bit of everything in there. Adi Vivash being there, done it, tried and tested Championship number 2, load of experience, almost the type of person that a Neil Warnock or a Chris Wilder would have alongside them, helping them out. But then you've also got Harry Watling, who, dare I say it, has the makings of Aaron Danks Mark II, maybe, in that he's a really, bright young coach, but with a lot of experience, worked in kind of youth development, worked for the FA a bit, been at big clubs in academy or youth development roles, now gets, a senior role at a Championship club for the first time as a first-team coach. I think the fact that they were both there yesterday spoke volumes as well, I think, as in and amongst it. This is a team that's come in. It's a team that's been put together as a coaching unit. And I think that's probably really important. And I think it's going to be good for Boro that that's the case. And I from everything Edwards was saying, he's excited. He's very open to the idea. Listen, I think it speaks a lot for him that he's happy with, more than happy with that. He wants coaches who'll challenge him. He wants people with ideas that he's not come across before. So I do think that's a big positive for Boro. That for the first, it's unfair to say for the first time because that's not right, but it feels like there's some real joined up thinking going on here in terms of what a coaching team should look like, and I don't think that's always been the case in recent times. I think that's fair to say. Any
indication on Grant Leadbitter then?
No, not yesterday. Now, he wasn't there. And to be fair, that's one that we will have to chase and pick up. I mean, when Michael Carrick left, the suggestions were that Grant will continue to play a role within the senior coaching setup. Given that there's a 3, I suspect he will still have a role because normally you would have 4, a head coach and probably at least 3 coaches in and around that as part of the first team and match day group. But clearly, well, I say clearly, you would imagine he's going to be at a level below Vivash and Watling. They're the senior figures that Boro want working, very closely with Edwards.
And obviously Alan Fettis, who was stuck around, who was the goalkeeper coach, still at the club. The one criticism, or the one kind of repeated criticism we saw in the comments last week and on various social media was how it ended at Luton. This thing about successive relegations, which we tapped into last week, and feels extremely harsh when you kind of dig beneath it a little bit. Well, you don't even have to dig beneath it, but what was the feel from Edwards? What did he say about how it ended at Luton? What happened last season?
So I think there was two things he wanted to say on that. The first was, without wanting to blow his own trumpet too much, don't downplay just how much of a kind of miracle really it was to get Luton promoted. I mean, that season they were favourites to go down, never mind get promoted. I think they had one of the bottom 5 budgets in the Championship, and yet they won promotion, got on this brilliant roll. So I think the first thing was, look, as a coaching team that he had previously, and as a head coach, he's had success at Forest Green. He's had massive success getting Luton into the Premier League. I guess you wouldn't call it success in the Premier League because they went down, but I think he did everything he possibly could have in the Premier League.
It wasn't failure, was it?
No, exactly. And then he had what he described as 6 tough months. And he basically said, all managers, all head coaches have to go through that. And it's the first time, and his Watford job lasted 10 games, but it wasn't, he won 3 of those. Like, the Watford thing was just the basket case that Watford were at that time and probably still are. I think you've just got to strike that out. So leaving that aside, it's the first real difficult spell that he had. And I think he basically said, there was an awful lot going on at that football club when they got relegated. The Tom Lockyer thing was clearly a massive factor. Losing your captain in that kind of way and all the emotions that went around that. But then also, I just think they got onto a downward spiral. I think he readily admitted that he just found it impossible to get them out of that. And the things that had got Luton on the front foot and winning games and promoted and that weren't working, and whatever else he was trying. And he did try things. It's not like he just kept on sending the same team out, weren't working. And then ultimately, I think even he accepted that actually what was probably needed was just a new face and some new ideas and a new voice in the dressing room. Now, obviously, ultimately, that obviously didn't even work either, did it? Because Luton, while they were not in the relegation places when Edwards left, they did eventually go down. So I think his overriding message was, look, yes, it was a bad spell, but all managers have them, and measure it against all the successes that I've had and that I feel I can have with Boro. Time will tell on that, won't it?
There was a lot of kind of pride, a lot of his talk about this pride and also about the fan base, the Boro fan base, and just kind of one chunk from something you wrote yesterday stuck out. In the last few years, coming up against this football club, you see it and you realise the magnitude of it. I came to the playoff semi-final the night after our own, obviously when he was at Luton. I saw the Riverside in a completely different light. I'd never seen it like that before. It was just real passion. I heard it, felt it, it gave me chills. That's something that will always live with me and something that attracted me to this place as well. We all want to have that connection with the fans. They're the most important people at any football club. They're here long before us and they'll be here long after us as well. We need to respect that and try to make them proud to support their football club. Now, as we've said repeatedly, it will always come down to results. If Rob Edwards is winless after 10 games, it doesn't matter how much you say that sort of thing. It's not going to wash. But if you get results with it and you can talk like that, that you can really galvanise a fan base and bring everyone together and have the place bouncing, can't you?
Yeah, and I know it's easy to say this, but certainly when he was talking about that night, that specific Coventry game, it didn't feel like he was just saying it to say it. It felt like he genuinely was just knocked out that night by what the Riverside was like and what it made him feel Middlesbrough could be and the potential of the club and everything there. Now, listen, we're a long way off that at the minute, aren't we? Boro finished 10th last season. There's going to have to be changes, all of that kind of stuff. But, I think he's coming in. Listen, he's achieved what he achieved at Luton Town. And he made a point yesterday of saying, look, I don't want to be hitting Luton with a stick. I'm not getting into my club's bigger than yours, whatever. Middlesbrough is a bigger club than Luton Town. The potential of what Middlesbrough could be, if somebody could get it right, is surely bigger than what Luton were ever going to be in the Premier League at Kenilworth Road with all the financial constraints and all that kind of stuff. So, I think he's coming in genuinely excited by what Middlesbrough can be, but also mindful of the fact that they did finish 10th last year. They didn't play particularly well for big chunks of the season. There are issues with the squad that we know need addressing. There might be some big name players leave at some stage this summer. We'll see what happens there. There will inevitably be some players within the current squad that aren't really up to playing in the way that Rob Edwards wants them to play. So it was also kind of saying, I'm going to need a little bit of patience here. I know I'm probably not going to get it, but clearly the aim is to improve. The aim next season is to be better than we were last season. The aim over the course of the 3 years that I'm here is to get Boro back into the Premier League and competing at the level where fans, think the club should be. But it's not going to be as easy as just flicking a switch and all of a sudden, oh, brilliant, Boro are a different club, we're winning every week, blah, blah, blah. Clearly that's the hope. And whatever happens, I think the aim going into next season will have to be making the playoffs as a minimum requirement. Because I think, as we've said on all of these vids here, if you are Boro in the Championship, that has to be the minimum aim. You have to be aiming for, at the very least, the playoffs. So he's going to have that round his neck from the word go. But I think he also accepts that, there were issues last season that do need to be addressed, whether that's via the transfer market or via the changes he makes in terms of style, tactics, on the training ground, all that kind of stuff.
And you'd imagine now he's just, you said there, the players due back in for the first bit of testing and what have you on Thursday, and then pre-season truly starts next Monday. If you're Rob Edwards and his coaching team, you're just itching to get him in and crack on now, aren't you? You're
counting down the days, I think. I mean, he was saying that he was actually surprised. Well, not surprised. He was saying you'd be surprised by how many of the players are already actually here. They've been in doing bits. They come in. He's like, I'm not surprised because I know what footballers are like now. Completely different than they were 10, 20 years ago when you turn up on the first day of pre-season, reeking of booze with three weeks worth of drinking in Ibiza, Marbella, and God knows where to get out your system. Now he's like, these are young lads who are in the gym every day in the summer. They're coming in a week before they're meant to come in just to do a bit of extra work, use the facilities, all that kind of stuff. He's like, I have actually seen a lot more players than I probably thought I would already. So, but you're right, testing starts tomorrow. Pre-season kind of starts in earnest next week. There's obviously a Portugal trip to factor in, and then we've got matches, haven't we? At the minute, the first game's away at Bradford. I think there's maybe a feeling that they might play a game before that, whether that's over here, whether that's in Portugal, whatever, because, the Bradford game's actually halfway into July. They'll probably want some kind of run out before then. That might be a behind closed doors thing as part of the Portugal trip. That wouldn't surprise us at all, but it won't be too long before we start to get matches going.
Bishop, where we can relive the memories of Uche Piezu's wonder goal on his debut.
Yeah. Was it last summer, Bolton at Bishop? I think it was.
You were there.
Bishop, some glory days at Bishop. Yeah.
Oh, and then most memorable manager unveilings. You weren't at the famous Joe Kinnear.
No.
Presser, were you?
No, I was working for the Northern Echo at the time, but I wasn't at it. Yeah, I mean that's the one.
Google it. Google it rather than
Google it. Yeah, we won't.
You can't replay
it. Know it, but if you don't, Google it. Yeah. Borough ones. I'm trying to think. The one that stands out would be it was the Woody one, wasn't it? Where Adrian Bevington was there, and there was the whole golden thread, and this is a new Borough, and the golden thread unravelled pretty quickly, Dom. I think it's safe to say, but that was one where they were desperate to get over. This is a new Middlesbrough. We're doing things completely differently. Yeah, the golden thread. Goodness me, yeah.
The Robbo suit, jacket, shorts, socks will never be beaten.
Yes.
Will it?
Yes, that's incredible. That's incredible. The other one that the lads on the paper always used to tell was you might Dave Jones at Hartlepool.
Oh, the sausage sandwiches.
There eating his sausage sandwiches.
He go through about a dozen Cumberlands in his press conference.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Yeah, like the ultimate non. Well, no, they wouldn't. Were there a non-league team then, or were they still in the league?
Man, I think they'll have been League Two. Oh God, I can't remember.
It feels like the ultimate non-league unveiling.
But apparently,
munching on a sausage sandwich.
They had a load of sausage sandwiches for the press, and Dave Jones just kept eating them.
Just kept putting them away. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We can't stop this video. Why weren't you at the unveiling? What have you been getting up to in the last few days?
Well, I got married on Saturday, and I suspect, had I cut short our time off afterwards, it'd have been a divorce swiftly following.
Swift divorce, yeah.
Although, funny
You're honeymooning later in the summer, aren't you? But you did have a couple of days, and like you say, to be perfectly fair, that would have been an interesting conversation with your new wife.
Yeah.
I love you a bit, love. I know. How do you fancy a spa day at Rockliffe?
To be fair though, she saw a picture of Rob Edwards yesterday, and somebody started to show an interest in Middlesbrough.
Tell you what,
I can't for one reason understand why.
We've avoided that until now, but I think all of us press lads felt very, very out of our depth in a certain way chatting to Rob Edwards there. I tell you,
yeah.
He's a good-looking lad.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, and she'll probably be able to hear this downstairs now, and she'll be mortified. But when she'd seen it, the first thing she said was, "He looks like he smells nice." Look at him, does it, Jazz? So does he? You were sat there opposite him yesterday.
I think the problem is the whole of Rockliffe kind of smells nice.
This is
it. So
we
need to get him. We need to get him in the press room at Rotherham or somewhere like that on a Tuesday night. That's when you'll be able to tell him.
The pie's wafting through.
A Rob Edwards waft through because he's about to come in and do his post-match presser. That would be a giveaway.
Yeah, so busy few days, but I'm back to it now. Well, almost back to it now.
Yes. Fixtures tomorrow, that'll be interesting.
You what, sorry?
Fixtures tomorrow.
Yeah.
Lunchtime reveal.
Lunchtime. Yeah. Which is a first.
Yeah, I don't know why that's happening,
but so for those, I mean, we've got 27 minutes now, so it doesn't matter really. But if you're listening or watching this after we find out the fixtures on Thursday, what do we reckon? First game.
Doesn't feel like Boro are going to get the Friday nighter, does it? The Friday nighter to kick off the season is going to be like Southampton or Leicester or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's going to be what I would imagine to kick off the season. They played the very first game.
They've been at home. Has it been Swansea and Millwall home the last two seasons?
It was Swansea last season.
Feels like Boro due an away game to start. I'm going Preston away.
You're going Preston away.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to change now. Friday night, first game of the season, Wrexham Boro.
Oh, that'd be a belter, that.
I'll go with that. That's who Sky are going to want on first night, isn't it? I forgot about that.
Yeah. Every weekend, to be fair.
First night, Wrexham Boro.
I'm going Preston Boro, which is a slightly more underwhelming.
Yeah.
That full away end will be class.
That would be good, mind. Yeah, that would be good.
And you know, the last time Boro started away at Preston on the first day of the season, they went on to win promotion.
Well, it's all falling into place, though.
Yes, at least it is now until 12 o'clock tomorrow. Find out it's completely different. Well, as ever, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. We appreciate that. Get involved with the comments as ever. We massively appreciate that. If you're listening on your podcast platforms, then rate and review. And we'll be back next time on You Are My Boro. Take care. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.